Welcome to the 18th episode of the Grand Cosmic Story. Who do you think you are? An advanced great ape? What is the origin of the human race? Are you the result of purposeless and natural processes that did not have you in mind, or the product of a loving creator?
Are you curious about the world around you? Do you wonder what else is out there beyond our world? Dr. Latha Christie, a scientist and an author, will take you on a journey through the universe. Join her in exploring the universe through her web series, The Grand Cosmic Story. Stay tuned to find out what today's episode is all about.
The story of the search for the origin of humanity is the story of identity. Where did we come from? Are we designed or evolved? All of us have to face this question of origin at some point in our lives. As per Richard Dawkins, we are not like apes, but we are apes. And as per the physiologist Jared Diamond, we are the third chimpanzee. Peter Singer says that Darwin showed in the 19th century that we are simply animals, and his theory undermined our place in the universe. There is no evidence that humankind is superior or special. Even Christianity today featured a few Christians who claimed that there was never a time when there was a single first couple who were the progenitors of the entire human race, and that we must abandon the idea that human beings were originally created by God morally good. It is time to go through the various hypotheses about the origin of man and to find out if we are advanced apes or chimpanzees or made in the image of God. More than 1.5 centuries back, when Darwin first proposed his theory of unguided evolution, doubts were expressed by a parade of other scientists, philosophers, and public intellectuals. But in recent years, the public has been told repeatedly that the case for a purely Darwinian account of human origins is now beyond dispute, and that the evidence for human evolution is overwhelming. But is the evidence for a Darwinian account of human origins really so persuasive? Has science refuted the traditional Christian belief in the first human couple, Adam and Eve? How realistic is it for humans to have evolved by neo-Darwinian means? In science, arguments need to be carefully evaluated with evidence. What if the faith placed in Darwinian theory, especially as applied to human beings, is scientifically wrong? Let us find out if there is enough evidence for this thought based on 3 kinds of data. Number 1. Anatomical similarities and differences among the great apes, hominids, and human fossil remains. Number 2. The comparative analysis of DNA sequences from living species. And number 3, the time needed for neo-Darwinian processes to traverse the path of apes to humans. Firstly, let us evaluate the fossil evidence by digging deep into the technical literature. Paleoanthropology is the branch of anthropology concerned with the origins and the development of early humans. Hominids can be divided into 2 taxonomic categories: the genus Australopithecus ape-like species and Homo human-like species. As per evolutionary theory, the modern human species split from the chimpanzee and other apes about 5 to 7 million years back. However, paleoanthropologists face several daunting challenges in reconstructing the story of human evolution. They face 3 main challenges. The first challenge is that the fossil evidence for human evolution is hard to decipher and quite sketchy. Ancient hominid fossils are rare, very few, and typically consist of bone fragments or partially disconnected skeletons obtained from different locations worldwide and geologic strata. We don't have fossils of many of the great apes. Paleontologists say that since chimps tend to live in hot, wet jungle conditions, their remains are not preserved and we don't have their fossils. Hence, human evolutionary story based on the few ape species currently alive is missing much of the bigger picture since living apes alone offer insufficient evidence. The second challenge is accurately reconstructing the behavior, intelligence, or internal morphology of extinct organisms. For example, the skeleton of the chimpanzee is nearly identical to its sister species, the bonobo, but they have great differences in behavior. On the sole basis of a few bones and skulls, no one could propose the dramatic behavioral differences recognized today between the bonobo and the chimpanzee. The third challenge faced by paleoanthropologists is the fossil specimens themselves. Typical hominid fossils consist literally of mere bone fragments, making it difficult to make definitive conclusions about the morphology, behavior, and relationships of many specimens. Also, the flesh reconstructions of extinct hominids are likewise often highly subjective. The late paleontologist Stephen Jay Gould says that most hominid fossils, even though they serve as a basis for endless speculation and elaborate storytelling, are fragments of jawbones and scraps of skulls. Let us examine a few fossils. Many fossils found in Africa, especially Ethiopia, are from the extinct genus Australopithecus, meaning southern ape. Among those fossils was Australopithecus afarensis, and in 1974, paleoanthropologists found one specimen of this species and named it Lucy from the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Lucy was in every newspaper. She became a global celebrity. It was published that the small female lived 3.2 million years ago and she might be bipedal and she could have been a hunter-gatherer. She was widely promoted as directly ancestral to the humans, or a miniature human with the head of a chimpanzee and a body that walked upright like humans. And if you see Lucy's skeleton today, you can immediately realize the incompleteness of a skeleton. Only 40% is available. A significant percentage is mere rib fragments. When Lucy's bones were discovered, her pelvis was badly crushed, and her discoverer Donald Johanson admitted that when he found the fossils, the bones were scattered across a hillside and they were not found together. Scientists were also not sure whether Lucy represents bones from multiple individuals or even multiple species. Soon it was found that Lucy was not bipedal but had several traits that would be very suitable for climbing trees. An article in Nature stated that Lucy was quite ape-like, especially for her relatively long and curved fingers, relatively long arms, and tunnel-shaped chest, and that she knuckle-walked as chimps and gorillas do. There are no known fossils of Australopithecines that are directly transitional to human beings. So fragmentary and disconnected are the fossils that Harvard zoologist Richard Lewontin commented no fossil hominid species can be established as our direct ancestor. Next comes the genus Homo or hominin. The recent hominin fossil found was Ardipithecus ramidus, dubbed RD. The Discovery Channel ran the headline RD, oldest human ancestor unveiled, and it is as close as we have ever come to finding the last common ancestor of chimpanzee and humans. The team's excitement was tempered by the skeleton's terrible condition. The bones literally crumbled when touched. Parts of the skeleton had been trampled and scattered into more than 100 fragments. That made paleoanthropologist Richard Klein say, "I frankly don't think RD was a hominid or bipedal. RD may not be on the human lineage." Despite the optimistic claims that have been made by some paleontologists, no fossil hominid species can be established as a direct ancestor. This lack of data causes paleoanthropologists to face challenge in remaining objective because of the sheer lack of evidence. Paleoanthropologist Leslie Ayala, who served as the head of the anthropology department of University College London, stated, that when it comes to locomotion, Australopithecines signs are like apes and a Homo group are like humans. The fossil record provides us with ape-like Australopithecines signs and human-like Homo, but not with fossils documenting a transition between them. The earliest fossils of Homo erectus, and Neanderthals are separated from Australopithecus by a large unbridged gap without any fossils that can serve as missing links. Human-like fossils appear abruptly in the fossil record without clear evolutionary precursors, implying a Big Bang theory of the appearance of our genus Homo. Instead of supplying a nice, clean example of gradualistic evolutionary change, the story of human evolution paints a totally different picture, revealing a dramatic discontinuity between ape-like and human-like fossils. Over the past few years, almost every part of the evolutionary story, every assumption about who our ancestors were and where we came from, has been called into question, and the case for human evolution looks highly speculative. Now, let us examine the evidence based on genome sequences. In 2005, once the chimpanzee genome sequence was available, scientists were able to compare it to the human genome, and it was widely publicized that 98.5% of human DNA is identical to that of chimpanzees, and since only a small portion of our DNA is giving us human traits, we are not special creatures. However, this is accepted only by a limited group of scientists due to the various contradictory findings. Firstly, the evidence from DNA comparisons is enigmatic because aligning DNA sequences is a tricky business. There can be single base changes, insertions or deletions, duplications and rearrangements of the DNA that complicate things and may or may not be included in comparisons. While some studies predicted 98.5% identical, some others predicted 94%. Also, research carried out on junk DNA, the DNA that does not code for a protein, suggested that the similarities between chimp and human genes lie mainly in the regions within 2% of protein coding DNA, and the biggest difference between humans and chimps lie in the 98% of DNA called junk DNA. It was soon found that junk DNA is not junk, but involved in numerous functions like gene translation, DNA repair, and so on. Based on these, the similarities between human and chimp DNA sequences are not 98% but around 85%. This means that 450 million letters distinguish human from chimp DNA. Also, the more we learn about our human genome, the more it seems to be brilliantly and uniquely designed. Each cell in our body contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, while chimps and great apes have 24 pairs. If humans have 23 pairs and chimps have 24, how did we evolve from a common ancestor? Some biologists believe that after we diverged 6 million years ago, our ancestors could have lost one pair of chromosomes or combined a couple of them. Human chromosome 2 should have been derived by the fusion of two primate chromosomes 2A and 2B. However, a study based on the length of telomeres, which is a string of repeating DNA sequences at the end of each chromosome, states chimpanzees and other apes have about 23,000 base pairs of DNA in their telomeres, while humans have only 10,000, which is much shorter. The data based on genomes paints a very confusing picture of human common ancestry with apes, and it seems human origin needs a radical rethink. Finally, for verification of common ancestry, there should be a stepwise adaptive path from the ancestral form to the new form with enough time to produce the proposed innovation in the time available. Do a calculation to determine how long a single coordinated mutation takes to originate in an ancestral human population. You can find that it would take 250 million years. However, the fossil record shows that the time necessary between the separation of the human lineage from the lineage of chimps and large apes were only 6 million years. 250 million years will take us back to the Triassic when the first mammals appeared. Also, one or two mutations simply aren't sufficient to produce the necessary major anatomical changes. They need to be coordinated and must happen within 6 million years. And that is impossible. Human evolution is a highly contentious subject as it involves a lot of assumptions. The Bible says that the whole human race arose from a single pair, Adam and Eve. However, population genetics argues for 10,000 or more people since there is too much genetic diversity to pass through a bottleneck of two individuals. Engager, a molecular biologist, is convinced about the possibility of literal Adam and Eve, as her research indicates that a single human pair is enough to bring forth this population. She points to the fact that the Edenic pair is not an allegory or a myth, and that the human race did arise from a single set of parents. Science has unearthed many facts about human beings and found that we are distinct from other species in many aspects. We have unique linguistic, aesthetic, rational, moral, and spiritual capabilities not found in animals. Unlike animals, man is creative. He has built spaceships, made artificial heart for the sick, and continues to excel in technology. On the other hand, animals cannot do such things because they lack the creative ability that God gave only to man. Thousands of attempts have been made to teach animals to express themselves in art, music, and writing, but none has produced the intended results. Finally, unlike animals, man has always sought to worship a higher being. No chimp or dog ever stopped to sing a hymn of praise or offer a prayer of thanks to its creator. Simply put, a huge gap exists between humans and animals, and the similarities we observe between animals and humans could be due to a common design instead of common descent, as the same creator created both. Genesis treats humans as special as God breathed His breath on them and has imbued consciousness within them. How awesome is to know that we bear God's image.
God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God He created them. Male and female He created them.
That's all for today. See you again in the next episode to find out if we are moral beings, where did morality come from?